Hey there, I'm Chris, otherwise known as Killerdog or KD. Every year I like to review all the monsters that came out as well as various changes that came, and I do it after the anniversary, which was last October. I'm about 5 months behind. I've been very delayed by other things, but I still want to do this series, so I've got everything ready. I'm going to be doing recording and get through it. It kind of helps in some ways because I have a bit more hindsight on some things, like I've changed perspective on a few aspects. But anyway, let's go into this video. So this one being the first one, I'm first going to talk about the major changes from 2023 in various updates, and otherwise do a bit of analysis on the new monsters that have come out. We're going to do more of an in-depth kind of talking about how strong they are and stuff at the end of this in the water video. But otherwise, yeah, we'll just do some stuff to begin with. Then I'm going to talk about Earth in general, just very briefly. I do it every year, so it's kind of repeating itself, so I'll just make it brief. And then we'll talk about all the new monsters, which is the core of this video. And finally, some of the highlights and the power level of these. So I like to call 2023 as the year of power creep. We'll get into that over the course of the videos, mainly in the water video at the end. But we'll talk about that in a second as well, because we're going to be talking about what were the major changes from this year. So the first one of these is HP boost. This is very, very major in terms of like what's actually changed in terms of gameplay for PvP especially. So HP boost, I did a few videos on this, which are somewhat outdated because things were changed. But basically the idea is you get these ores from daily gameplay, you can get some extra from Super Epic Bond Quest, but ultimately it's from playing every day. Every 100 days, so it's about 3.5 per year that you can get, and then you can increase the HP of your monsters. So it's 500 HP for a Mythic, 1,000 for a Legendary, and 2,000 for anything below that. Now that's the change from my original videos. Originally it was 1,000 on everything, and my advice was just only do Mythics. And basically, yes, that was true, so they changed it. So then now it's like, well, the Mythics get less boost. And what it actually does now is, so because there's like a 1,000 HP difference between Mythics and Legendaries, then Legendary to Super Epics, because Legendaries get 1,000, it gives them the HP of a Mythic. And Super Epics get 2,000, it also gives them the HP of a Mythic. So it narrows the gap between how much they tank very nicely. And if you didn't know about how defense works, basically that doesn't matter. It's about whether or not they're full defense or not. So a full defense Super Epic with the same HP as a full defense Mythic will tank just as well. So Mythics still can have more HP by HP boosting them. They get 500 more, but otherwise the standard HP that monsters can now have is 5,000. And so in my HP boost videos and stuff, and I talked about the future things, and I said basically things need to be able to do 6,000 damage to tanky stuff. That's not true anymore. It's basically 5,000 / 5,500, that kind of range, and it's now even more important to be able to do 5,000 because Super Epics are going to have that much HP too, and a bunch of Super Epics do have high defense as well, so especially the kind of the ones that get used at the top of PvP. So it's crucial. Also, as time continues to go on, more and more things are going to be HP boosted. So it's just really going to be the case that that's what we need to be doing. Since Super Epics get 2,000 and below as well, there's certain ones that become a lot stronger with HP boost. So it's allowed certain Super Epics and things to see more play. We haven't seen that effect so much yet, because it needs time for people to get enough ores to HP boost a bunch of things, but ultimately we will see that, and we will see various Super Epics and stuff be very popular. The other thing to say with it is that because they made it so you can remove HP boost from a monster for only 1 million silver, which really is not that much, it means people can move around the boosts quite a lot. In all the original content I made to do with it, you couldn't remove the HP boost, so it was a significant investment. It meant that you had to put it on certain things, and that it would kind of restrict how many we would end up meeting, because people would HP boost stuff and then ultimately end up not using that monster later on, but now they can reclaim that HP boost and put it on something else. So anyway, enough about HP boost. If you want to know more, shortly after releasing this video, I'm going to have the tier list updated, and there is an HP boost section of the tier list which will show which monsters are worthwhile doing it. Unfortunately, that's just basically going to be the best place for it, and my videos are going to be outdated, and that's just what I'm going to have to accept, but it's a bit of a shame. Anyway, that's all that. So the second point, this happens every year. We get meta nerfs for PvP. Tranquilizing Entrance, it's been around for years and just been super popular. That is Sober King and Malwing, they're just very, very, very strong. So those got nerfed by the stun becoming 40 seconds rather than 80 seconds, which means they have much less impact, much less sort of guaranteed impact, because that pushback, as well as sleeping an enemy, allowed you to kind of chain it into other turns, whereas only 40 seconds pushback is much less significant for giving you those extra turns. And people have a lot of strong opinions about stun generally, about what it actually does in a battle and that kind of stuff. That 80 seconds that you get is really strong. I know those are harsh counters, and if you meet the counters, like, they're not going to do much, but when it lands and it stuns like 3 of the enemies for 80 seconds, that is so strong for giving you extra turns. It can swing a match really, really easily. And so sleeping an enemy as well, on top of that, is like just a very strong entrance. So those have been at the top of the game, and by reducing the stun to 40 seconds, I think this has been a really smart way of making them balanced. And since that nerf, like, they've seen less play. They are definitely fine to play, they're definitely strong, but they're not the sort of top of the game as they have been for so many years. Maple Dragon and Rhino L also saw significant nerfs. Maple Dragon, it's pretty well known. It was the top super epic for PvP. It was just so overpowered, and they nerfed that massively. It's still playable, but it's so much weaker, and somehow still playable, which shows how strong it was originally. Rhino L, this is slightly less known, but they basically buffed the box chomps twice, I think, maybe 3 times. It's at least twice. And I've played with Rhino L a lot. It was a meta-shaping monster that was very powerful, and then it kind of got used a bit less with time. And I was still using it, and it was still very strong, but I've definitely felt the nerfs as they nerfed it. So because those box chomps are actually do good damage now, it has weakened Rhino L a lot. When you are facing those box chomps, like, probably if you're in the team and you're using the box chomps, like, they feel horrible to play with, but when you're facing them, you're actually like, okay, well, I want to leave that box chomp alive, but it's going to kill this monster of mine, which I need to stay alive, so actually I need to kill the box chomp. And that, I found that happens quite a bit. So Rhino L is nowhere near as strong as it used to be, and that's probably a good thing, because it was a bit too strong. So anyway, enough about those meta nerfs. The really big one from this year, which I think may have gone under the radar a bit, but it's what's contributed to this being the year of power creep so much, is that a bunch of the Mythics have had enormous buffs, like really significant buffs, that historically what I would always say is that there's a few key Mythics that, like, stand out above the Legendaries, and then there's a bunch of Mythics which are basically on par with the best Legendaries. And so those are the ones which, okay, they make up the bulk of it, but it means that they, compared to the top Legendaries, were kind of competing, and you could use both of them. And then it was just certain Mythics that were clearly stronger and a bit overpowered. Now there's loads of Mythics that are clearly stronger than Legendaries. The game is much more swung towards Mythics are the way to go. At the top of the game, at the top of PvP, teams are mostly constructed of Mythics, and Mythics are far more accessible than they used to be, so it kind of makes sense. It's not an issue for free players or that kind of thing, but suddenly that's the way design has now gone, whereas for the last, like, 4 years or so, it's been fine to play Legendaries, and it's just been a few Mythics that are stronger than them, and otherwise ones which are, like, you know, maybe a little bit stronger, but not significantly. The last couple of years which I've done this video series, I've talked about how actually the Legendaries were stronger than the Mythics that were coming out, and that's just been completely turned on its head in this last year, predominantly because of Mythic buffs. So the ones that I'm mentioning here, I've shortened the names of them all, so you may not be able to realise what I'm talking about. The 7th anniversary ones, so these were Gabriel and Apollonius, which I always mess up the name of. Gabriel got the most significant buff there. It's a super strong Mythic. Apollonius is very playable. People don't play it massively, but it's strong. Like it's like a very strong Legendary now. Then there's Onyxia, which got a massive defense buff. Medbee is really strong now. Lilithia got enormous buffs. Mech Hydra is now very strong. Voidress also huge buffs. It has recently got very popular because it counters humanoids very nicely. Yeah, this kind of stuff is very significant for changing the way, you know, power creep is in the game, and yeah, this was a really big part of it. Another one's the stun nerf. So stun, basically, after all these years of dominating PvP and some PvE strategies, has finally been reshaped to be balanced. It's probably well known, so I'm not going to go into it in lots of detail. But basically, things can't be stunned until they've had another turn again. So they get stunned once, and then they can not be stunned until they get another turn, which means you can't spam stun, which is really good. It hit the very important bit, which was stun locks, where people would just repeatedly stun something, stun your team, and that wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun play pattern. So they've nerfed it in a good way. It means we have to use stun in different ways. It's shaped things a lot in terms of people aren't using as much stun, people aren't using as much stun protection, which I think is weird, because I think stun's just as strong as it was before. And in fact, the fact that people are using less stun protection means stun's kind of stronger than it was before. The only thing I would say that I haven't talked about yet, which is why I'm mentioning it here, is I think that the stun absorbers, which have some kind of death effect after they've been stunned over 400 seconds, are nowhere near as good as they used to be now, because they have to be hit by a big stun in order to do that. Otherwise they just get stunned out of play and then sit there and wait until they get a turn, and they're usually weaker than other things which, you know, are just stun absorbers, because they have this effect of, you know, when they get stunned high. So there's a few of them which I think need it changing to probably 300 seconds or something like that. But anyway, that's another topic. The other thing, which you've been seeing on the right-hand side here, is the Legendaries. The original starters all got a Legendary form. Now, this has been slightly controversial because the ingredients requirements are enormous for getting them, but it is really cool. They're actually quite good monsters as well. They're downplayed quite a bit on the forum because most of the people there are veterans, and so, you know, they look at these and they're like, well, they're not fireable. I can't use them at the top of PvP, but they are strong. Particularly Wolfenrir, the water one, is probably the most viable for top level PvP. But the other ones have use. The only one which I would say is not that great is the fire one, just because it's a bit outdated, the kind of thing it's trying to do. But yeah, they're very cool, and I think they're reasonably strong. We'll talk about them obviously over the course of these videos. And lastly, the profile page. We got the profile page where we can show off all our profile icons, backgrounds, that kind of stuff. It's a really cool feature. Battle icons in the matches, so you can see various status effects and that kind of stuff. Really useful for knowing what's going on. Back in the day, we didn't see anything. We didn't even see stealth or anything like that. So you had to remember everything. You had to remember what had to hold ground, all that kind of stuff. But we've got a bunch more of that in the game, and that's really nice because it makes it a lot more accessible. And then we got a load of extra sound effects. They've been adding these in almost, I think, every other update or so, like beast noises for the beast monsters. It seems to be related to their monster type more than anything else, and doing the sort of moves which are specific to that type. So like when it's a robot move, a robot style move on a robot monster, that's when it'll do the effect, that kind of thing. Moving on from that, we're on to a bit of analysis. So this is looking at the Legendaries and Mythics, in each of the elements, the monster types that are there. So what I really wanted to highlight here was going into 2023, humanoids have just been continually rising. Last year, humanoids overtook dragons. Dragons were historically like way more than any other monster type. Humanoids overtook them last year. They're now going ahead up at 67, while dragons are at 53. In fact, we didn't get any dragons coming out this year, just noticed. Still 53. The other ones are beasts. We got a lot more beasts this year. Beasts were always ahead. We basically have, you know, humanoids, dragons, beasts. I think the other one is robots. Those are kind of the common monster types in the game, and all the other ones are not super well supported. But beasts, for whatever reason, we got loads more of them. So if you actually look at 2021, we had 27, and it's gone up like 50% in the last 2 years. So that's been a significant one. The other one I wanted to highlight was plants. If you look back at the previous years, we had 11 in 2020, 12 in 2021, 13 in 2022, one more each year, and in this year we got 3. So a bit more plants than we had before. Not that it's really significant with like what they're doing. We don't have plant union stuff, but I did think it was worth pointing out that we haven't really had any plants coming out, and then now we got a few. So yes, that was the monster types and kind of where things are going with that. As for the stats, this is both the stat distributions of monsters as well as the speed. A few interesting things to point out here. So just to talk about the table on the left here, this table shows you all the new legendaries and mythics that came out. On the left-hand side of it, it's the stat distributions of them, going from full attack to full defense. On the right-hand side of it, it is the speed from very slow to very fast. So we've got 2022 on the top and then 2023 below. You can see the number of monsters that came out in the central column was 31 in 2022, and now it's 32 in this year. So pretty similar. So the numbers are very easy to compare. In terms of defensive stats, so I've said year on year, basically we've been getting more and more very tanky monsters. And this year was basically more of the same. It didn't swing any further into, more tanky monsters. It was mostly just more of the same. So you can see that up in the top right, the table, which is year on year, the percentages of the legendaries and mythics that are full attack going to full defense. The full defense column there is 5.3, 6.4, 7.7, 8.9, 10.1. So it's just been consistently going up, and that's because compared to all the older monsters, which very few of them had defensive stats, we're just consistently seeing more of them coming in. So the percentage is increasing year on year. So that's just more of the same, nothing too special there. But in terms of speed, that was the really interesting one. So this is the first year that I've ever been recording it where the average speed has increased. After they introduced Mythics, so to very quickly explain, when they originally released the game, bonus on monsters, I don't know if it was necessarily a thing, it may have been something they added later, but either way, I don't think they designed thinking about monsters being +9 and what that would do to the speed of them when they enter into a battle. So they kind of had a bunch of faster stuff, and obviously when things are +9, they get a turn faster. It makes design a bit different in terms of like how all the moves are scaled for how quick they are and that kind of stuff. And so when they introduce mythics, and mythics are tankier and stuff, mythics are always +9 when they're awakened. They've been designing them more as slower monsters. So it's been the case that things have just got slower and tankier with time. However, this year, they decided to release a bunch of faster monsters. And that is really interesting because those faster monsters are basically more powerful because they get their turn faster. Now, if they're not doing anything significant on that turn, it doesn't really matter too much, and that's generally how things are designed, is either, if they have impactful moves, they have to be slow. If they're less impactful moves or situation or whatever, they can be faster. But this year we got loads of fast monsters. You can see in the bottom right of the table on the left, it was 10 in the very fast, compared to 4 last year. This has brought up the average, so now it's a 54.5% speed average of all the monsters in the game, the Legendaries and Mythics, that is. So that is also another kind of indicator of power creep. The fact that we're still getting these tanky monsters, we're still getting strong monsters, but now some of them are faster. That is going to really affect the way the game plays. If they keep going with this, it's really going to change things as they've been going. Like, I think they've been keeping powerful mythics in balance by making them slower. But if they bring out more which are fast, it's going to affect the way people build front lines, the way how we have to maintain control as we're killing through the enemy team, because some faster stuff is going to come in that's a problem. Anyway, that's enough analysis of data and things. Let's talk about Earth itself. So Earth, we got 1 new mythic, 7 legendaries, 3 super recs, and 1 0 to 4 star monster this year. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video going forward. Earth generally is a very tanky, slow element. Earth and Holy are the 2 elements that are like that, and Earth is slightly less so much than Holy. Holy is a bit more extreme. And then monster types, we've got lots of plants and beasts in Earth, particularly plants. It's basically the only element which has plants. So we're going to see 2 of the 3 new ones that came out this year in Earth. And another interesting thing about Earth is they seem to release the PvE monsters that are kind of the overpowered PvE monsters in Earth. Over the last 2-3 years they've been doing that. So I can't remember if there's one this year. I think there is one. We'll see it later on. Anyway, and talking about the themes in Earth, Throw is a massive thing. You can see there's loads of monsters here that summon or use rocks, and summon and use rocks. It's a nice theme because they all kind of support each other. Those rocks can be used by any one of them, and there's some really fun stuff you can do with Earth in the throw setup. Also got Protector and Retribution theme. You can see there's a bunch of protectors and then a bunch of things which can kind of kill teammates or create teammates that can be killed, that kind of stuff, that will make this kind of strategy work. It's generally sort of like neat synergy as opposed to something which people build around in particular. But it's quite a cool thing, quite a cool theme. We've also got a bunch of poison stuff in Earth now. It's not as major as in Fire and Shadow, but we have got a bunch here, particularly Scorpio-Geist is a popular one. Alright, so moving into the new monsters. So Straw Bobo, this is not really a real monster, I want to say. We all got it at the anniversary, but it's basically a nasty token to be created by Straw Baba, a bear that is going to be later on in this video. So it's not really a monster you use and put in your team, but they decided to give it away for free anyway. So I'll just talk about it very briefly here, so I don't have to talk about it at the bear when looking at the bear. But basically, it the problem thing is that it doesn't have a way to remove itself naturally. So it has to sit around for a really long time, and then it has the good riddance passive, get rid of it. So it dies 300 seconds after it enters the battle, which is 300 seconds is enormous. That's like, something's been put to sleep. And then it's also a negative when it when it would wake up by dealing massive damage to all teammates. So yeah, it's a really, really nasty token. Probably the nastiest token that you can give anyone in the game. I say probably, it definitely is. And the moves on it, that Sleep Killer is just super weak. Purify, kind of useful, but nothing that special. And then True Hit, that's the one thing. However, of course, if you give this to the enemy, you're giving them a monster with True Hit. You're not going to use Protectors. If you use a Protector, that's obviously quite stupid. And then this can get a kill. It can kind of kill whatever it likes. And it needs to get a kill, and then it can sacrifice itself using the Honor Healing. That's the kind of like the one out that it has. So basically you give this to the enemy, you don't run Protectors, and then it can't do anything, sits around there, and after 300 seconds explodes. It's brutal. It has to be basically killed or removed by a teammate, which is why we need things like backstab and stuff in the game. If this was granted by a stronger monster, because slight spoiler, Straw Baba is not particularly good, but if Straw Baba was very strong, this would be very, very oppressive, and they probably need to nerf it in some way, so it can easily remove itself in some way. But anyway, so that's this token. We'll see Straw Baba later on. Dreadmoth. Now, Dreadmoth is an incredible monster. I absolutely love this. It's very popular among people. There's loads of really, really cool things you can do with it. So you can't really see the moveset when you see this, because its moveset is hidden on 3 other monsters, which we'll look at in a second. But as you can see, the tier list rankings, it's just top of the tier list. It's super, super strong. This is stronger than most Legendaries in the game. It plays with Mythics really, really well. This is a great target for HP boost, because what it really wants to do is just get to that first turn, and it's got reasonable speed as well. So full defense, reasonable speed, and once it gets to a turn, it can then change into one of 3 different moths which counter different things. So these things, they ultimately counter Protectors, Poison, Stun, and Sleep. Also Death Revenge. So you switch into the one that you kind of want to, the one that counters what the enemy team is doing. Then it gets kills, it charges Bloodthirst, and that's how it kind of works. If they're not using any of those things, Dreadmoth can't do much. And so when I originally saw it, I was like, oh, this is clearly strong, but I'm not sure how it will play. I don't think it will necessarily do super well. But it just does, because in the vast majority of matches, there was, one of those things, often like 2 of those things. You can, purposely leave things alive that are countered by Dreadmoth so that Dreadmoth can do its thing. So it just really, really plays, it plays very reliably. I'd say, it's in the sort of 80 to 90%, probably closer to 90% of matches that it just gets to do its thing. and so they have to kill it before it gets a turn, and it's got the full defense. If it's HP boosted, good luck trying to kill that before it gets a turn. The one thing it gets countered by is Bastia, but like that's one specific mythic which counters so many different things. So let's move into talking about each of the other monsters that it turns into. Just before I talk about the moveset though, really interestingly, we've got the 5 different types of stat distribution: full attack, standard attack, rounded, standard defense, and full defense. This is the first time in the 8 years of the game that we've now got a new stat distribution. So if you can't tell, this is more than full attack. So 4,500 attack, and I can't remember the exact defense on a super epic, but it might be like 2,700 or something. That's the stats for a full attack super epic. This doesn't have 4,500 attack, it has 4,975. So this is kind of a new stat distribution which has higher attack and even lower defense. Given also the fact that it has high speed, so it has low HP, this is very, very squishy. Even with the plus 2000 HP, it's pretty squishy. So that is one knock on it for the HP boost. If you find it survives to its turn anyway, so it can turn into one of these, maybe it's not a big deal, but I would say it is helpful to have that 2000 extra HP, and because this monster is so strong, it's kind of a good investment anyway. But I thought that's really interesting that they introduced a new stat distribution. I don't know if we'll see that on other things, or whether it will just be on like these, created monsters where you transform into them, or whether it will actually be there on a monster initially in its initial form. But anyway, the moveset on this one is the countering poison. And Death Revenge. All of these monsters have rapid entrance, and due to their speed, they also retain the +9 bonus, which means they basically have roaring entrance. So they get in turn immediately or within like 1 or 2 seconds, and they have then the chrono weakness. But this one, you can see it counters poison because it's got antidote and poison immunity. I mean, that kind of says it all. So it can antidote, kill 2 things really nicely, payback killer for the Death Revenge monsters, and then charge Bloodthirst, and it's got Purify all just for a bit of extra utility. So Dreadmoth, this is the counter sleep stuff, so it has Dream Ender. They all have this kind of move. Guardian Execute for defenders here, and the really interesting thing here is it has sleep immunity with Purify. So this can be used with 1-on-1, and you can actually line things up with, say, Mantis Samurai, which is the legendary that we all get that is bug, wants to be used with other bugs. Dreadmoth's a bug, and you can line it up so Mantis Samurai does 1-on-1 just after Dreadmoth has turned into this form, so that then you skip behind or however you line it up, and then Mantis Samurai will do the 1-on-1. This is then gets a turn immediately or very shortly afterwards to purify your team, and you've put the enemy team to sleep while remaining awake. So you can do some interesting stuff like that with it. Otherwise, I would say this is probably the strongest, because a Guardian Execute is just really good for instantly getting that turn back. And if you meet a couple of protectors, this plays super well because you Guardian Execute a couple of protectors and then have Bloodthirst all at roaring entrance speed. But anyway, that's the Shadow form, and then we've got the Storm form, which this one's for countering, stun, and protectors again. So you kind of, if you meet protectors, you choose between which one of these two that you want. Either you want a true hit or you want a Guardian Execute. This also comes with stun immunity, which makes it a bit more reliable for continually sweeping through. It's got the rescue and give turn as well, so if things have been stunned, you can give turn to them. So it counters stun better. So basically, if you meet protectors, you either choose, okay, does it matter whether I go with true hit or Guardian Execute? And then do I want, am I sort of assuming my enemy team is going to have some stun in it or have some sleep in it? And then, you pick which one of the two. So as you can see, the versatility you get in Dreadmoth is just insane. Like, you get so many options here. It counters so many things that it actually comes up, like I said, 80 to 90% of the time. It's very tanky to get to that first turn, and then it's roaring entrance, so immediately goes aggressive with one of these, countering moves, countering forms. That it just plays super well. If you don't have Dreadmoth, definitely try and pick it up when you get the chance for it, because it is one of the top super epics in the game. Moving on to a less exciting super epic. This is Virid Wyvern. So this is the shiny version of the normal Virid Wyvern, and I liked the non-shiny version. It has Blood Fury. The issue with it though was it really kind of struggled to get kills with Union Attack, or less like didn't play super well. And this somewhat has the same issue. What I like about this one is the mutual unwelcome entrance. So it adds a bronze shell to both your team and the opponent's team. That can be used with various monsters that like to have a token to sacrifice or like to have a bronze shell teammate. So it can set up that kind of stuff. It also sets up the union on it because it's got the plant type and the bronze shell has a plant type. So, it helps with that. And then it's got union with dragons, between plants and dragons, and it creates a plant. Like, it can get union very easily. But it needs 2 kills for the Bloodthirst. And the Repulse and Send Back, quite nice. Like, you probably, Send Back can be used on itself. Ultimately, though, it's clearly good. Like, it's better than most super epics. It's why I've got it quite high on the tier list. There are certain teams that it can see play, and it will play quite nicely. But it's not super good. It's just kind of quite good, I think. Virus Dragon Gamma. So we're going to talk about all the Virus Dragons as well as the Garden Fairies. We've got some more Garden Fairies this year in the Fire video, where I like to talk about them all at once. So I'm not going to talk about it here. This is one of the sort of mediocre ones. Nothing super interesting about it. But yeah, we'll just move on and talk about it in that other video. So moving on to Legendaries, we've got Chimunka. Now, Chimunka is one that I personally hate. I really wish this monster did not exist. It's the kind of thing that I really hate because it either does not much or it does something really, really horrible. And I'm not a fan of monsters like that. I like monsters that you can kind of have fun with. And, the ones that are not very strong, that they can perhaps do something in some weird team that is, fun. This just doesn't really. The horrible thing about this is looting charge. So it sacrifices the monster at the end of the enemy team. And that is obviously strong. There are loads of things it doesn't work well against, like anything that has like useless tokens or something at the back of the team. Doesn't do much against those. You've got to have a teammate die for it to do that each time, so it may not line up. It doesn't sort of scream super powerful. However, if you can set up any combo where you lock the enemy team out of the game and then repeatedly kill teammates or something like that, you can then loop the looting charge and just kill the entire enemy team without them ever entering the battlefield, which is very strong because then you avoid any entrances, any revenges, anything like that. So what you have to do is create this kind of lock, and then Chimunka is a win condition. And that can work in PvE quite easily. So this is one of these monsters that you can build around in PvE to get very, very easy wins. You can just cheese battles with it. In PvP, it's harder to do that. And they actually had to make some changes because it was proven that you could do it. And that's like the kind of the thing that stands out to me is like, why did they make this in the first place? If they then, as soon as someone realises how to break it, they go, okay, we're going to have to change some things. Anyway, so that's kind of the main thing about it, is the looting charge. Otherwise, it can do some damage stuff, nothing too special, like double energy burst is 200 seconds. Drain Survivor requires 300 seconds to pass. The annoying thing about it for facing it is that it has sleep revenge. So that's a guaranteed sleep on one of your monsters when you kill it. A bit annoying because, you mostly have to kill it before it gets a turn. Otherwise it's going to looting charge a bunch. If you don't have anything, if you have something in the back that you don't mind getting looted, then you can let it get one turn and then kill it afterwards. But it's a bit annoying because of the sleep revenge. Otherwise, yeah, if they have some kind of combo thing, it looks like they've got a combo with it, definitely kill it, because it will be the win condition in that combo. And if you want to cheese a bit of PvE, then it works for that. So I have it in D for PvP. It's stronger than that. You can do some good things with it. It's just not one I like at all, and it's not one which I would ever say, this is a top PvP monster. I don't think anyone would try to claim this is a top PvP monster. It's just a combo monster that can be a win condition in certain teams. The second legendary is Garden Fairy Clover. Now this is one that we're going to go through in the fire video because it is one of the Garden Fairies, and this very specifically wants to be used with the other Garden Fairies, so there's not much point talking about it alone. So yeah, just going to cover it there. The third legendary is Geisthorn. This is one of the plants. Unfortunately, it's not particularly good. So this has been changed since, and I think I'll talk about it with the change, which is Camouflage Entrance is now just Camouflage. So Camouflage, Auto Poison, both amazing passives. It's got a double Poison Eater that's 130 seconds. That's also nice. Poison Eater, yeah, not so good. Solo Twin Knockback, not so good. Purge Rage, this is a really nice move, but it's 200 seconds. So basically, all the moves are really slow. And the Solo Double Poison Eater, while it's nice, having to have poisoned enemies for that to be any good is just really awkward. Like, you've got auto poison, but if they purify, what are you doing here? Like, you know, there's nothing really you can do other than Purge Rage, which is a 200 second kill one enemy, which is way too slow. And the speed on this monster is 26%. So you're already like super slow. So everything about this monster is just way too slow. So it just doesn't really do much. That's the problem. If this came out years ago, it'd be a fine playable monster. But it just doesn't really do enough fast enough these days. And Swift Wall Breaker, again a nice move, but a bit situational. Like it's nothing. It's not pulling it up to be something amazing. Yeah, this monster unfortunately is just a bit too slow with everything. If it had faster moves or a bit of versatility that didn't require enemies poisoned, when it doesn't have any way to poison them other than auto poison, then it could be, it could be something to talk about. But unfortunately, it doesn't have enough going on with it that it's just kind of fine. That you can use it in some kind of poison setup. Obviously, you don't use it in Earth Poison because you've got to have the solo. But you can use it with fire poison or something else. Fire poison, to be honest, wants Link, so this is not really what you're looking at putting with that. But yeah, anyway, you get what I'm saying. It's all right, but it's just nothing that special in any regard. Then we have Geoceron. Now this is actually pretty cool. So this is kind of creating a cycle, although they don't work together in any way, of the unicorns, which are all kind of high attack stun converters. So we've got Infernicorn, Glacearon, Xanacorn, I think we're going to talk about in the Storm one, and we've got Geoceron here. So we need a Holy and Shadow. Maybe Doomhoof is the Shadow one, but that doesn't have stun converter, so maybe it's not. Anyway, so Geoceron, the cool thing about this is it has quite good speed with hold ground, so it's quite hard to actually stop before it gets a turn. And then when it gets a turn, it's kind of all about, controlling what's going on the battlefield. So you can Rock Red Morph to remove a teammate that's a, dead weight or something. Which, imagine this not in the front line, but it's coming in. Any token disruption, this can come in and then remove those quite nicely. Remover is, I won't talk about Remover just yet. Then it's got Sacrificial Gallop, so basically it can knock back while also dealing pretty high damage. It sort of one-shots the squishy stuff, not too much else. So when I originally saw this monster, I thought, okay, great, it's good speed, it does this knockback thing, and then does some other way of, getting a kill, and it's got solo Bloodcrave. In practice, this is quite hard to stop doing from, getting that turn, doing anything, and then it is quite nicely disruptive with Sacrificial Gallop, quite easily gets a kill with Sacrificial Gallop, and then it can solo Bloodcrave for fast killing. Remover is for those times when it can't knock something back. It can just kill that thing very easily. But otherwise it can be used to kill something on hold ground very nicely. If it's on, got a shield or got a little bit of health, you can still kill it because it's got piercing with a Remover. So it tends to play really quite nicely. It's not insanely strong. It's not an S+ kind of legendary. It's not as strong as Mythics. It doesn't play super well against Mythics. But the fact that it can disrupt the enemy team nicely, it's got hold ground and stun converter, it's got 80-second sweeping if it does get a kill, it tends to play really quite nicely. And I've come to sort of respect it after I've seen it in battle. And the versatility you get with the Rock Red Morph to, remove dead weight and that kind of stuff, comes up and is a really good thing to have in any PvP team. So it's a good PvP monster, definitely a cool design, and I love the art. So now we get to Straw Baba. So I mentioned this earlier on, it makes that Straw Bobo thing. This is a really, really weird one. It came out at the 8th anniversary, and it's all about giving your opponent token monsters while disrupting them. So, you know, the larger amount of disruption, the less good the token is. The least amount of disruption, the stronger the token is. So the least amount of disruption here is sending them next in line, so a repulse, and that makes the Straw Bobo, which is the really, really powerful token. And then the most amount of disruption is literally killing the enemy, which is the Merry Christmas, and that creates a Yuki, which is the strongest token, because that can sacrifice itself to kill one of your monsters. So that's what it does. It's incredibly low speed, and all the moves 160 seconds. So in reality, I don't think this monster is that great. However, if it gets too many turns, it does cause big problems. Making those Straw Bobos is a big problem. So you do have to kill it. You can't just ignore it, but it gives you a lot of time to kill it. It's also got a very strong combo with Gyaratus, which is a mythic that's come out that inverses the speed, basically. So Straw Baba comes in 30 seconds, and that's a big problem. So that particular combo is very strong. Outside of that, I think it's kind of a sort of awkward combo monster. It is very good in PvE if you can build around it in certain ways. That's where I've been very harsh on it. I made these assessments right after the anniversary, so it's when I first saw it, I thought, nah, it's F, it's so bad. But actually, creating enemy tokens in the enemy team, in particular the Straw Bobo, and then using that to lock out the enemy team and stuff, is kind of an easy way to cheese battles in PvE. So it can do that stuff, help with that a lot. The Party Time secret skill is very complicated to kind of work out. It's situational. It definitely requires a certain lining up of things. You can use it with Team Turn quite effectively, but basically the idea is you use it when your monsters are all going to get turns, and then kill the enemies before they get turns. So it doesn't matter that you've massively accelerated the enemy team. It's also worth noting that on Straw Baba, we're saying about how it's really slow, and the moves are pretty slow too. If you use Party Time and then give turn to it, and you can, rapidly in quick succession use 2 of these moves, all these moves disrupt the enemy team. So remove them, which then means that they won't get any benefit from the acceleration that you gave them. So, like I said, with Team Turn, it works quite nicely, where you can Team Turn. Those Team Turn monsters that I'm thinking of, the classic ones, have Give Turn, so that you can Team Turn, then use Party Time with this, give turn to it, and then use the 2 disruptive moves, make some tokens, take control of the battle really easily from that. So there's certain things you can do with it. I personally not super excited by it, but yeah, that's it. So moving on, we have Viridrexus. So this is the starter legendary, which now has 6 forms, which I suppose makes sense, going up to 6-star. But anyway, so what this really does nicely is what the Super Epic version did, which is high speed with Accelerate Team. All they really added to the moveset was they made Desperate Bite and Retribution be the double versions, which double Retribution is normally pretty weak, but because this has really high attack, it is actually good. Double Desperate Bite is a very strong move, and I think that's kind of where it comes up nicely in PvE. Like, if you're a newer player, this should play really nicely, where you can accelerate immediately and then basically keep it alive using Double Desperate Bite. It should get kills pretty nicely. The whole Grand and Stun Revenge is very nice. I think this one is pretty underrated, but at the same time, I can see why people wouldn't necessarily like to play with it massively. But there aren't too many monsters in the game with Accelerate Team and high speed, particularly at Legendary and Mythic. It just almost does not exist. So if you want that kind of effect, you're usually looking at Super Epics. Things like Shield Dragon is a really good one. Gaia Kaiser, I think it's called. And there's 1 or 2 others that have that. Viridrexus is a legendary version of that effect. And it's a reasonably decent monster. So I use the Super Epic form for that in certain teams. And so having the legendary just basically being better is quite cool. The Venomous Extermination is kind of for endgame poison. So this is a PvP meta thing, really. If it becomes the case that poison is just like rampant in the endgame, in the meta right now, at any point, then people can start using Viridrexus, where it can then come in and be a counter to that, killing all those poison monsters, immediately negating their own revenge effects. And bear in mind, Viridrexus is high speed, so it will come in and it will do that really effectively. That also means it can be used for certain PvE battles, where you want to counter that kind of thing. So it's got some other niche use with that, but otherwise, just kind of an all-round, all-right monster. Then we've got Warhammer. So this I have pretty low in PvP, and I think I've been quite harsh on it. It does survive well. So what this really wants to do is survive for 300 seconds, and then it has Vanquish, which is a faster survivor that is piercing. And it is brutal, especially considering this monster has Hold Ground, it has Second Wind. Like, it's going to work really well once it gets to Vanquish. And the Supreme Shield requiring 2 hits to take out is really nasty. The thing I always kind of underrate on this monster is the Terrorize. That works quite well. And it works quite well because Warhammer is good speed. 64% speed is surprisingly high for having a disruptive move. And Terrorize does a good job. Like, it's not efficient seconds. Bear in mind, you can have this +9, so the seconds on that is -15, which is 102 seconds. So you push them back by 80 seconds for 102 of your seconds, which is, you go down by 22 there in the trade, but you can push the particular enemy that you need out of play for that, and you can do that, 3 times to nicely pass 300 seconds. So it tends to play a bit better than I would give it credit for, because you can push enemies out of play, or shield itself, and then get to the Vanquish. I haven't seen too many people play it, because I do think that, and this is my big problem with it, is that it doesn't do much until the Vanquish, other than that pushing out of play. So yeah, that pushing out of play might play well, but sometimes you just really need to kill the enemies, or Vanquish. Terrorize will be like, oh no, it can't be blocked by protectors. I have to think of a different point then. My point is, there's this sort of balance between Terrorize plays quite well, but sometimes you really need to do something other than Terrorize, and Warhammer doesn't offer something else. It's really hurt by any repulse or anything like that, because then it's got to pass all that time again, and if it's used its Terrorizers, then it can't really do anything other than shielding itself. Like, it's fine, it's a good monster, but it's not actually amazing. For PvE though, it is quite nice, because you can build around passing time quite easily, and this is one of the better payoffs. Vanquish only being 100 seconds rather than most survivor moves being 130 makes it a lot better. So moving on to the one mythic in this video, Vespia. Vespia is really, really good. So this is one of the ones that is clearly way stronger than Legendaries. It's not super high on the tier list for mythics, just because there are quite a few really strong mythics now. But this is just really strong. We've had enough bugs in the game, so this wants to be used in Bug Union, or at least with a few bugs. It doesn't have to be, but it is a lot stronger when it is with bugs. And there are a bunch of very strong bugs in the game now. Mantis Samurai is one that everyone gets, and basically all the bugs they brought out, like that, there aren't too many in the game, but they're almost all really strong. We saw Dreadmoth earlier in this video, which is a bug that's very powerful, and being a super epic is a bit more accessible. We've got Arachnodiva, Onyxia, Beetle Brute, Lunactia. Like, there are various strong bugs in the game, and so this is quite easy to just get the boost, the stats boost of having with bugs, but it doesn't really even need it that much. The other thing is, it's low speed, it's weak to both poison and Chrono Killer, but given the high defense, and if it's got the buff stats too, it doesn't really die to them particularly easily, so it's kind of fine to have those weaknesses. And having Stun Converter with very aggressive moveset is very powerful. So Corrosive Thrust kills anything that's immune to poison and pierces, and it's only 100 seconds. That's super efficient. Backbite is generally nice for removing dead weight from your team. and healing this up at the same time when it's tanky is really good. You've got Blood Crave, which is just a very efficient, only 100 seconds for a kill. Yeah, that's really strong. And then Deadly Needle, this is the crazy one. So Deadly Needle, I can't remember exactly if it's stronger than Poison Eater, but it's certainly about as strong. Yeah, I want to say it's stronger, but either way, you can use Deadly Needle twice in only, okay, technically 118 seconds, but it's a 70-second move. So it's 140 to use it twice. Poison Eater is normally 160 seconds. So even without any kind of setup, if you have to do a Poison Touch as well, it's 210. But without any of that, you can use Deadly Needle twice very easily to both set up then kill. And it does that, really quite well for getting kills. That's without any poison support. This can quite efficiently kill things. And if you have any poison support, then it can just Deadly Needle to Poison Eater over and over every 70 seconds, which is crazy. So it's got a bunch of really aggressive moves. All it needs is a bit of support of bug teammates or auto poison or something like that, and then it becomes a really, really good sweeper that's very tanky. Getting extra turns from Stun Converter as well. It can deal with anything that can't be poisoned because of Corrosive Thrust. This is a really, really strong sweeper. And that all said, it's still not top of the tier list because there are other things which just do more powerful things. The other thing as well is it is low speed, and that's kind of to keep it in check. But it also means that it comes with a high impact move on the first turn, which is Instant Toxic Give Turn. And that, annoyingly, it gives turn after Vespia. I wish it would give turn to the monster and put Vespia 1 second behind. I think that would play better, but to be honest, this monster doesn't need buffing. That it's fine to kind of work this way. But basically, it's just an extra turn for one of your team when Vespia first gets a turn, and that's the kind of thing that just adds nice extra value to this. It is +3 cost for that effect, but if you can have that in your team, then it will work nicely. And you've already got the both the poison and chrono weakness, so it's not like you're adding an extra killer weakness by adding that move. So yeah, that's Vespia, very strong monster. And talking about the highlights, so talking about Vespia just now, probably should have had that in the highlights here, but yeah, Dreadmoth, amazing monster, just clearly a top super epic, so powerful. Garden Fairy Clover, we didn't talk about here because I want to leave it for the next video. But this is just a crazy tank for Garden Fairies. It's super good. Clearly one of the best monsters that came out in this year in my mind, but it is specific to Garden Fairies. And then we got Geoceran, which is a really nice form of disruption in PvP. It's a good sweeper for that. It's another Earth solo monster, unfortunately, like Rhinoel and other ones like that. But yeah, for certain teams, it's very good. It does a bunch of the stuff that we want in PvP, like killing teammates and that kind of thing. So those are the highlights. In terms of the strength of them, here's where they are in the tier list. Like I said, some of the stuff I'm a little bit, about. Like Straw Baba could be higher in PvE, Warhammer could be higher in PvP. But the key things here are that Dreadmoth is super good. We got a couple of good legendaries. But a lot of ones that weren't so good, unless you have very specific teams. Chimunka and Straw Baba, to some extent, are more Earth win conditions for PvE that you can use. But yeah, generally across the board, this was actually kind of medium compared to the other elements that we're going to see. Earth got more monsters than other elements as well. So yeah, you'll see for the other ones, they only got a few, but they're really good, or that kind of thing. And with Vespia, I was raving about it just now. It's definitely really strong. The fact that it's kind of B/A tier shouldn't really put it down too much, because it just requires a bit of synergy, and it doesn't do anything crazily overpowered. So that's why it ends up in A tier. But anyway, still good monster, and Earth did all right. But nothing super good other than a few highlights. So that was Earth. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I'll be coming up with the Fire one very shortly, which will go through the new Virus Dragons and the new Garden Fairies, as well as all the Fire monsters.